my dad gave me really good advice. He said, Lisa, in the marketplace, there's always room for somebody who's going to excel. So don't ever be afraid of that. If you're starting your company, there's always room for you if you're really good at what you do. And I took that to heart.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. My name is Brett Gilliland. I'll be the host for this episode. Every episode, my team members and I have a chance to meet with amazing business owners who've gotten their business off the ground, they've grown, they've had some success, and they're continuing to work through what it takes to take their business to the next level. My guest today is Lisa Gregory. Lisa is the founder and head of events at Gregory Event Services. They are amazing when it comes to just think of all things organizing, planning, pulling off your important events. These are events that can be relatively small, but they also handle really large events. So think about all the lights and the music and the stages and the logistics of making all that happen seamlessly. That's what Lisa and her team do, and they've been doing it for a long time. Welcome, Lisa, to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. I am feeling very excited to have this conversation and hopefully help others that are going through the same journey.
Absolutely. Lisa, please tell us a little bit more about Gregory Event Services. I try to give a flyby, but you're going to give better context to our listeners about who is this person and what's this business that she has.
Yeah, so Gregory Event Services was founded 12 years ago. We service global, primarily high tech organizations based in Europe, throughout Asia and the US, east to west coast. We also help clients anywhere. So if you had an event in South America or Canada or whatever, we can fly and go anywhere. We also work remote on all time zones. So we have quite the infrastructure set up for asynchronous planning. Our team is based primarily in the US, East Coast, West Coast, but we do have representation in Europe and Asia as well. And we plan conferences that are 25 people or smaller, all the way up to 4,000. So 4,000 is sort of our sweet spot. And we do user conferences, trade shows, road shows, company kickoffs, president's clubs, you name it. If it's tech, corporate, we do it. We do not plan weddings, but we do plan parties and fun stuff like that that are in conjunction with these events.
Yeah, like those presidents clubs, I bet are fun.
Yes.
Okay, so Lisa, you guys know logistics like nobody's business. You know how to manage all these moving parts. You're extremely organized, great planner. And I think before we hit record or when we talked the other day, I wanted to get a sense for how many of these amazing events you guys are handling in a year, and it blew my mind. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, like how many of these events all over the world are you guys managing?
Yeah, we're managing about 275 events a year, which is unbelievable.
Almost
We're
every
usually,
calendar day of the year, like somebody's having an event somewhere. Like you guys are doing it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
we don't travel to all of them, otherwise we would be exhausted, but we do, yeah, so for example, if we take a book of business, someone comes to us and says, okay, let's do quarterly planning, Q1, Q2, all the way through the year. We go through and we plan their logistics. We even do some of their strategy, marketing. Each client kind of determines how we engage with them.
Okay. But still, there's just the sheer volume of details that you guys manage is just, it blows my mind. Okay. Anyway, that's who Lisa is. Now let's get into why she's here. We want her to share some of the lessons that she's learned as she's grown from managing, at one point, I would say something less than 10 probably when you first started. Now you're
Yep.
managing 270 plus events in a year. That's incredible. So you've grown something, it's gotten big. Um, but you're not the same person today as you were back then. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the lessons that you've learned along the way.
Yeah.
What would you
So
share as a key lesson?
Yeah, so I am a perfect combination of both my parents. My dad was an entrepreneur and my mom was a school teacher. So imagine someone coming through, not being afraid to take risks, hammer through things and sacrifice a lot to be able to execute very well for your clients, but also with that like caretaker, let's make sure everybody's doing well on the mom side. So if you put those two personalities together, that's me. So when I first started, my dad gave me really good advice. He said, Lisa, in the marketplace, there's always room for somebody who's going to excel. So
Mm,
don't ever be afraid of that if you're starting your company. There's always room for you if you're really good at what you do. And I took that to heart. So every time I interact with a client or I work on an event, as soon as I meet with them, you know what I do? I assume I've already won the business. So I
mm,
start working for them before I even meet for them, researching, getting prepped, building agendas, showing them exactly what it would be like to actually work with me. And our batting average, I like to say, is in the 90 percentile as far as winning business. It's because as soon as we interact with them, we show them what we can do. And I think a lot of people feel comfort in that. The way that I built my business was relatively strategic and slowly. So as I built, I was like, okay, let's get the right clients. Let's prove what we can do. Let's stabilize and iterate. So I'm a big retrospective person. For every event that we do retrospectives, and every event we do strategy sessions. We don't just come in and kind of do logistics and that's it. We look at the full picture and we're constantly looking at what did we do well? What did we not do well? And how can we help our clients? So that builds a level of trust where they're just like, great, we trust Lisa. She's got this part. We don't need to worry about it. And then it's all about building your team, building people with the same values that you have and the same work ethic. Now, I'm a firm believer that not everyone needs to be me. I have superpowers, but there's other areas where I am not as strong. So I try to find people who complement my strengths and help fill those gaps that I know that I have. We have a gal on our team who's very good at logistics. We have folks on our team who are very good at writing and ideation and brainstorming. So I try to look and identify my weaknesses and fill those gaps. And then it's how do you grow with your clients? Some clients come in and they're like, we have 25 employees in our company and we grow all the way up to thousands of employees. And they just kind of keep us because we build that trust. They may even get acquired and they decide to keep us.
mm.
So we're not planning for the same event and just cookie cuttering it. We're looking at exactly what that client needs at that time with their budget, reporting to their boards of directors, and what resources they have internally to execute. So we're looking at a broad spectrum of how we service these clients to be success, and that model has really worked well.
Well, I love it when people say things like, "My dad said this," and it turned out to be true because I'm a dad, right? Like, I hope someday one of my kids says something like that. But I love what you shared about your dad. It's like, hey, if you're good, there's space in the market. And I want to reaffirm that truth with everybody who's listening because sometimes we all have those doubts. We're like, is this even worth it? Like I'm 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 grinding it out. Like I'm doing all these things. I'm hustling. I'm wearing myself down. Is it worth it? And I think it is if you're good. If you do something good, if you do something valuable in the market, there's going to be space for you. So that was a really cool thought. And then to walk through some of the things that you've done to show your value to the market. Like I work for them before they even sign up with me, right? Like you come with that energy from that place. And it sounds like that served you really well. And then I love also what you talked about with the retrospective. It's like we're not just gonna repeat what we did last time. Yeah, it was good. It was valuable. The market appreciated it. But if we just keep doing what we've always done, at some point that fizzles out, right? There are needs that are shifting. How do we get better? How do we learn from what we did? Anyway, everything you shared was awesome, and I probably left out a couple summary points. But are there any? Oh, and you talked about finding the people who sort of complement your strengths or who can fill in where you're not as strong. Um, that was another thing that I heard in there. So many good thoughts. Could I have a couple more minutes, Lisa, on the idea of um, building the team around you to succeed? and not just the aspect of finding people who can cover the spots you're not as strong at, but like how do you actually get multiple people acting, maybe acting as one is a little too lofty a goal, but like coordinated action. Like how do we take an increasing number of people and take targeted coordinated action? What have you found to be helpful?
Yeah. So I actually have read this book about sprint planning.
Mm,
Sprint planning is fantastic. Let me see if I can find the name of the book. But the reason why I like it is because too many times someone says, like, okay, well, let's get this done. Well, there's a lot more involved. When does it need to get done? What are the stakeholders? How does that impact folks cross functionally? You also have a life. Maybe your wife's having a baby, you're getting married. So when you do sprint planning, it's kind of like, okay, these are all these goals, but we're going to regularly check in and you're
mm,
discussing that strategy to make sure everybody's on the same page in advance so everybody knows we're going to meet Monday for 15 minutes and Thursday for an hour. We're going to have weekly reports, which could be part of your sprint planning, so that we're held accountable on what we're supposed to get done and the client is held accountable and the vendors are held accountable. So we kind of go through, and I can tell you the name of the book. It's called Sprint: How to Solve Big Problems and Test New Ideas. You can get it downloaded on, Amazon Books or
right.
whatever.
All the places. Yeah.
All the places. So I do recommend that. Sprint planning is really helpful to get the team built and kind of marching in that same direction. And then we
Hmm.
look at the infrastructure needs of our team members. So some people are more type A than others. We look at the infrastructure that the clients need to succeed, and each client's a little bit different. Some use project boards and Asana, Monday.com, or ClickUp. Some use Google Sheets. Some are dispersed all over the world on different time zones. So we work differently with each client and each team member to create this flow. Also, okay. You're
Oh,
gonna say.
I'm just hearing the differences across time zones, and companies have different tool preferences. But beyond that level of like that layer of tool, I think
Mhm.
the underlying principle there is you get people, and I heard you using the example of on your own team. We work, we gather for 15 minutes on Monday. We've got an hour on Thursday. There's some sort of meeting rhythm that accompanies some sort of project tracking or communication tool set, right? Like you put certain structures or things in place to make sure we are touching base regularly enough, and we're using enough project management or communication tools to facilitate the progress of this thing, right? That we can sprint together, and that's what I'm picking out. Am I missing anything from what you shared?
No, that's perfect. And each client is a different sprint. And then the mechanics of operations for the company is a different sprint. So we have
Yes.
operational plannings that are monthly. Everybody comes back in, reports on clients. We have weekly status updates that come to me on every single client. Then the client gets weekly reports, right? So
Yeah.
everything is different depending on, and then once a quarter, or it just kind of depends how everybody is. We review, which we just did at our team offsite. Are these working?
Mm.
Are they not working? Why? And then iterating, like I said, that constant retrospective going, but we changed our sprint actually in our weekly reports too. Instead of them doing being due every Friday, they're now due the day of their one on their team meeting, or at the latest the day after. That way we
Mm.
don't forget anything, and that sort of thing. So again, that idea of the constant iterate and retrospective. My operations manager, which, yay, I've hired an operations manager. You should do
Nice,
that too.
congratulations. Yeah,
I always tell her, she's like, you never do the same thing the same way twice. And I'm like, nope, I never do. Very rarely. I'm always iterating and improving on what I'm doing. And I think as an entrepreneur, that is a superpower.
yeah, and we need good people around us who can help us make those changes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lisa, this has been extremely valuable. I want to make one more comment that I'm inferring. Actually, it's a comment slash like question. Am I hearing you correctly? But it
Mhm.
sounds like these sprints. There's different flavors. You said there's sprints for clients, but then there's sprints for how we run our own business, and those are different. I'm curious, can I add one more layer of differentiation on sprints? Because you
Mhm.
mentioned weekly, monthly, we do these types of things on how we run our business, and and I see those as more, well, what I'll call operationally focused. In the business of getting and serving clients the best of our ability, we have this monthly and a weekly and monthly thing. And then
Mhm.
you just talked about a quarterly offsite or maybe a quarterly planning session where I would like to, in my mind, I'm turning the attention a little more big picture, future oriented. Maybe there's some big operational things that bubble up to that level of let's change some things, but it sounds to me like you're getting more strategic, more future oriented with your annual and quarterly, maybe a little bit more operationally execution focused in your weekly, monthly stuff. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes. So the number one thing I use to thrive in my everyday and in the future is called forecasting.
Mm,
So each week I forecast, and this is what I forecast. I forecast accounting and operations. And you know why? Because it's not my favorite.
mhm.
So if
Gotta
I
keep
don't
your eye on that
forecast,
ball. Yeah,
I won't do it.
yeah,
Client check-ins. How are clients doing? Do I need to check in with them? Team check-ins, task time to make sure I'm getting all my tasks done. I actually block it in my calendar, and then decompress, strategy, time. So I block my whole calendar and I do it weekly and I do it monthly.
yeah.
That
Well,
way, I have this path coming into straight to success, and I can see when I'm double booked, when I have more mind time for strategy.
yeah,
Okay, I'm looking, I haven't met with someone on my team for a week because 'cause they've been traveling. Okay, I need to get that back on the calendar. So forecasting is really my key to success because I have a CM meeting with a client. I don't have a Gregory Event Services team meeting planned. That's missing. Okay, I'll go in and plan it because
mm,
readiness and being prepared is half the battle for success and retaining your clients. If they feel
yeah.
like you don't know quite what's going on, then they're going to be uneasy.
Well, I haven't met many business owners who are as intentional and organized as you are. That's actually how my team and I make a living, helping business owners be more intentional, a little more organized with systems to keep track of the day to day and the future, right? That balancing act. So
Yep.
anyway, it's impressive. I wish I could give people an image, on something that are probably just listening to the audio, but I got a little glimpse of Lisa's calendar the other day, and it would either inspire you, like awe-inspiring for some of you, and for some of you, it would freak you out to see the level of detail and attention that she has in her calendar. It was a sight to see for sure. So, very good. This has all been super, super helpful. Lisa, let's shift gears for the last portion of our interview and talk about a way that I might be able to help you as you're continuing to work on yourself and growing your business. What's something that might be useful for us to talk about for the rest of our time?
Yeah, I think one thing that we struggle with is a lot of people, and this is very common for companies as they're growing, as they interview with me, I sell them, right? This specific product, which is Lisa.
Mm,
Lisa's organized. She has 25 years of experience. She can do, anything. I've planned everything. But then I have to kindly sort of do this lovely handoff with the internal team and have that infrastructure so it still feels like they have that 25 years of experience kind of hugging them through the process. So I
mm,
think one thing our team struggles with and is just that like everybody's coming in with different skill sets and different backgrounds and sort of creating that solid sort of templatized structure, making sure that the clients get what aligns with our morals and values and how we succeed as a company. So how do you help ensure that like all the weekly reports are going out? Clients are getting fast communication. Everything's being documented and saved. Now we do a really good job of that. Not going to lie because we are very good at it, but it is me constantly chasing people to make sure. So, how would you recommend to me to kind of build more of that reliability in the team so that I'm not constantly chasing and like making sure that they're doing it?
Yeah, I bet that's a pretty heavy mental, like cognitive load, right? It's like, oh, is that happening? Is that happening? You got to verify, and how can you build it in a way that it's coming to you in the frequency that you want it? The little verification. Yep, that's happening. That's happening. So a couple thoughts come to mind. First, so I'm going to split this up in two parts. One part would be, I love how you talked about the client getting the hug, the comfort of 25 years of experience, and and what they just had as a personal experience with you in talking to you as they decided to do work with you in your company. So how do they get that hug through the process is a way of being, I'll call it, a sense of security, a way of being. And then the other one is more on the technical, like the delivery of the work. How do we make sure that it's consistent, that it's right, and timely, all the other stuff. So I I'm a big values person. If you haven't learned that about me yet, Lisa, there's there's clarity. Like business owners have to drive clarity. They got to be the ones to set a clear vision for the team. And I don't
Yeah.
mean by themselves, but they have to own that it happens. And so I like co-creating clarity with the team. And I want us to get really clear about purpose and values and the specific mission that we're up to right now. And on the purpose and values front, those two components of setting the vision, in my opinion, make up what is the essence of our shared identity here. So at Gregory Event Services, like what is the Gregory Event Services way? And so when you talked about that hug, that like I want that client to feel that it wasn't just the capability that the experience of doing all these types of events and anything you can imagine in the event space we've done. uh, it does include the comfort of that experience, but it was also a way of being and a way of how you serve and interact with them. And
Yeah.
if you can codify that in a set of values, and it's built on this really powerful why we do what we do as a business, you can just like you improve in every other aspect of your event delivery, you can improve in your hiring ability to find the type of people who are going to give that experience that we're always looking for. So I don't want to spend too much more of our precious few minutes left on hiring to fit, but
Yeah.
the clearer you are about the Gregory Event Services way, the easier it will be to find people who fit that way and it will just create an experience where the client is like, if I talk to Lisa or Sally or Mary or John or whoever I'm talking to with Gregory Event Services, like it's like I'm talking to a clone. Like they're all, they're all friendly, caring, very very disciplined, conscientious, whatever that special sauce is for you and your team. They experience that every time they interact with one of your people. So that's all I'll say on that. On the technical side, or like, can they do the job? Can they deliver the results in the way that I want? Can we be consistent? Um, to me, that goes right into the whole, standard operating procedures, documented processes that we do have a way. But I want to add something to the traditional thinking around that, and that is
Mhm.
a concept that we use that we call Big Three. And so for every single role in the company, you should be very clear about the key success measures for that role. So for somebody who's leading an event, I would imagine there's project milestones that have to be met at certain time frames. And so there's
Yes.
probably an expectation around, are the expected milestones being happening in the time frame? That's probably one measure. Another measure might be the client happiness score, the client satisfaction, however you measure that the client feels like they're getting the quality of service that they expect. And maybe another measure is around the budget. Like, we sold this is, and we managed this budget, and it came in within the budget. Now, I just made those three up. It might be three completely different measures that you think it
No,
should be.
that is 100%. What did
Pretty
they
close,
sign up
right?
for? Yep, did they get the
Yeah,
value? Were we under budget? Were we, we estimate our hours too. It's not
okay.
good to overestimate our hours, right? Like, I
Yeah.
don't want clients overpaying, but I also don't want them underpaying and then us have to go back in and ask for money. So,
Yeah, nobody likes
yeah,
that experience, yeah.
no,
So, yeah, what are the actuals to expected or estimated? Like, that difference might be a key measure instead of one of the other ones that I threw out there. But the
yep,
point is that every single team member, whatever role they're in, they know exactly how that role is evaluated for success, right?
yep,
And another way I talk about this is that every time you pay somebody, Lisa, and I'm talking about your team members now. Whenever you pay a team member, it's to the penny of what you guys agreed to, right? Like, you never short them the pay that was expected.
yep,
But for some reason, we get really sloppy on the value delivery side from the team member. We don't always measure that, and we need to
yeah,
create a culture of performance, of ownership in our teams, that they know and you know exactly what's expected, how it's measured, how it aligns to our company goals, and they come to you every week ready to self-report against those expectations. Like, you don't have to go chase it around all the time if you set this up the right way. They have the
yeah.
clarity, you have the clarity, and then they self-report against that. Um, Out of curiosity, Lisa, are you in the practice of doing like weekly one-on-ones or regular one-on-ones with team members today?
So we have 17 people and we have
Yeah.
5 core members. So with the
Okay.
17, the full group,
Yeah.
I do not do one-on-ones with them, but for
Right.
the core team, we do them. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, people travel and stuff like that. So it
Right.
is a lot in team meetings when we're meeting together, and then we do one-on-ones as needed. So they might not be weekly because sometimes we're traveling and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but um we do sync regularly, go through the work back schedules, go through all that stuff to make sure that clients are on point. And if the team needs help, I'm a firm believer in delegating.
Yeah.
I have really improved on my delegating skills because that's how I was able to grow the company. If you don't
Yeah. That's the only
delegate,
way you could get to. Yeah. Totally.
yeah. And in order to delegate, you have to have clear outline of what you're looking for and then people you feel comfortable delegating to. And so that would be one tip I have is that as you're doing all this, look at what how you're measuring everything with the team, but also look at what you do need to delegate and what the team needs to delegate to be successful. And I love these tips because right now, when I do weekly reports, I let them choose what they're reporting on when
Mm.
they report to me, but they should have more guidance. So I'm going to fold that in because I love that because I don't always have that. They do have to do color coding for client happiness, but there's a little bit more that we could do there. So I think that was great advice.
Well, and what you'll find if you really get into this is that now that we talk about job descriptions a lot, especially if we're going to go post a job, but even in the standard operating procedures, and how do we organize work internally, and what are the job descriptions? All of that stuff's great, but usually it's a laundry list of bulleted, like, here's all the tasks, here's all the responsibilities, but there's no clarity. And you said you were on point when you said you can't really delegate if you don't have clarity about what you're giving to somebody. So most of the people who say, I'm not very good at holding people accountable, or I wish my people were more accountable, they really haven't learned how to clearly delegate ownership, right? Once you clearly delegate to somebody, then they can own it fully, and they can come back to you and self-report and say, this is what you gave me, here's how I'm doing with that. And so, anyway, I got a little distracted, but the laundry list of tasks on a job posting, or job description. I can't even say the word because I'm kind of against them. But anyway, the long list on a job description doesn't really help get total clarity about how do I know I'm winning? How do I know that I'm actually doing
Yeah.
what you're paying me to do? And those three measures, it doesn't mean that's all they do, but the three, it boils it down. This is the most important. Here's how we know you're winning. This is the second most important, third most important. And I would even weight those. The first one is most important to the tune of 60% of the success criteria. The
Yeah.
next one is 30%. The last one is 10%, right? It adds up to 100, but you weight them, you get a measurable result or a measurable activity that they can self-report on, and they go home on, for the weekend and say, I'm crushing it, or I got to step it up because they know exactly what was expected and how it's measured, and you know it, not because now you're having to chase it all down, but because they come back to you and say, "Hey, this was what you hired me to do. Here's how I'm doing with that," and they self-report in those times that you do have those one-on-ones. So
Yeah.
that would be my thought. Figure out how to hire for fit so that experience, that Gregory hug, right? I love the way you describe it, but that is common for them anytime they interact with any of your people, because that's the type of people you hire. And then on the capability or the execution side, how do we know exactly what winning looks like? Give that clear ownership and have them self-report back. I think that's how you ensure that your clients are getting what they need.
Well, and I will throw a wrench in that.
All
So
right.
not everyone that I hire is just like me, right? That
Right.
can give those hugs and the rainbows and the sunshine. And here's what I say to that. I need people on my team who are reliable, can get the job done very well, and like I don't have to worry about. And there's value in that. So it's a delicate balance of not finding everybody who's just like me, but also being able to provide the service and that reliability to the client and making sure they know that maybe not everyone on the team is going to interact the way that I do, but I did it on purpose, right? I need to have those because logistics are incredibly detailed. Like
Yeah.
we have to be very detailed, and sometimes we need that person that's going to come in and just bam it out. But I let clients know in advance, like, hey, you know, this person has this role and they're perfect at it, and this is exactly how they thrive. And because of this person, you will thrive, right? I think as long it doesn't always have to be like this beautiful rainbow and sunshine as long as you communicate that up front.
Okay. I love the addition. My hope for you and others is that we get so clear about what makes our business unique that we
Yep.
hire to values. Now, I wasn't talking about personalities. I was talking about values. You bring you have a warmth about you. I could tell you're like, if you were a doctor, your bedside manner would be amazing. And
I'd
and
love
not
to
all doctors.
be.
What's that?
Not gonna lie, I would love to be a doctor. I think that would
Yeah.
have been a great side profession, but yes.
Mhm. It usually isn't a side profession, but I could tell, like, the way that you deal with people, you're like, "Yeah, Doctor Gregory, I wanna call you that."
Yeah.
Um, so not everybody has the same personality, but then you rattled off some things around, you know, attention to detail, gonna make sure it happens, like, can crank out the work, whatever. Like you had a set of qualities that maybe more around values about what it takes to fit in well on this team.
Yep.
That's a little different than, Lisa, you have a certain personality and it goes well with client facing roles. Um, anyway, I want for every business total clarity on the sameness that we want to create in our business. That externally we call it brand, internally we call it culture. We don't want a bunch of mixed signals in brand and culture. We
Correct.
want oneness. And then we can have a lot of differences. We can still have a lot of beautiful differences. Lots of diversity brings creativity. Our clients are diverse. We can serve a diverse client base better. There's lots of reasons for having diversity, but on purpose and core values, we want no diversity. We want same.
Correct.
So that's the point I was trying to get at, and I like the point that you made as well. All
Yeah.
right, Lisa, this has been fantastic. Thank you for spending some of your valuable time with us to
You're
share some of these
welcome.
lessons and bring up these issues that have brought some great thoughts to our audience. What would be the best way for people to learn more about Gregory Event Services if they want to, if they're in a tech space and they're like, man, we could up our event game. How would they connect with you guys, or how would they connect with you on social?
So we have a website. Just go to gregoryevents.com. I'm heavily on LinkedIn. So you just type in Lisa Gregory, Gregory Event Services, and they can find me there. And then we
Uh-huh.
did start a nonprofit Slack group. So there's 530 event planners and marketers from around the world in that Slack group. So you don't necessarily have to hire me to interact with me and get some of those beautiful insights. The community we do support for free. It's our way of giving back. It's one of the founding principles of the company. And we host monthly webinars just to educate the community. So if there's something that somebody's interested in, we you can bring that topic and we'll give tips and tricks in the trade to help everybody out. If you do want to engage with us, we do recommend you reach out earlier than later because we do get booked out pretty quick,
Far in
especially
advance. Yeah,
yeah, during the busy seasons. We are not going to grow just for the sake of it. So we're going to grow very meaningfully and very purposely to make sure that we can maintain the quality for our clients. So
yeah.
book us early and you'll be able to work with us.
Awesome. Okay, so if people are one of those event planners out there, or they're in a marketing or tangential space, and they want to be part of that nonprofit part of your giving back, how do they find that piece? Was it also on Gregory Event Services?
Yep, they can go. There's a form for them to fill out, and then I'll send them the link. Or you can just message me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to send you the link that way.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate it. This has been a good episode. For everybody out there listening, please like, share, review, comment, do everything you can to get these episodes in front of as many seven-figure business owners as possible. Our whole aim with these is to bring on real business owners who are sharing real lessons that they've learned as they've grown, and being open, being very real about the things that they're still trying to figure out and wrestling with. And so we think this is helpful. We want to help as many people with it as possible. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time for another episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast.